12 o'clock Eastern time on ABC. It's the 9th-ranked Vanderbilt Commodores taking on the 20th-ranked Texas Longhorns. Texas about a 1.5-point favorite right now. Both teams enter Week 10 with 3-1 conference records. They trail only Texas A&M and Alabama. Those two teams are undefeated in the SEC. So a second conference loss is basically the death nail for conference championship aspirations. So it's must win for Vandy. It's a must win for Texas if they want to play in Atlanta, and they still might need some help to get there to begin with. But a loss, you're out. And amazingly, coming into the season, Texas was the overwhelming favorite to win the conference. They were picked by 96 media members to finish first. So they were the favorites. It was a championship or bust season, felt like, for Steve Sarkisian and co. Vanderbilt, on the other side, they were picked to finish 13th out of 16 teams in the SEC. So to think that 4 games into their conference season, they're still within striking distance of getting to Atlanta says an awful lot about where Vandy is. Look, Texas has struggled with inconsistency, and Vandy has been one of the best teams in the country up to this point. They've already beaten 3 AP-ranked opponents. That's tied with Alabama for the most top 15 victories in the entire country. And what's crazy about this is you look historically at this, what would you guess Texas's record is against Vanderbilt historically? I would have thought Texas would have a considerable edge from a win-loss record historically. It's actually not the case. Vandy leads the all-time series 8-4-1, and that includes a loss last year. One of the big stories in this game is Arch Manning. As of this moment, he is currently in NCAA concussion protocol. He got hurt late in the game against Mississippi State. He did not practice on Monday. He did not practice on Tuesday. So the status for Saturday's game is very much in doubt. And the timing of this injury is devastating for Texas because he was coming off of, by far, his best performance. Threw for a career high nearly 350, led a furious 17-point fourth quarter comeback, and then eventually gave way to an overtime victory. So the fact that he got hurt on that 13-yard scramble, it halted the personal and team momentum at its absolute peak offensively of the season. Now, the development has kind of a threefold impact. One, it removes the team's starting quarterback, who's gone for nearly 1,800 yards and 15 touchdowns. 2, it erases some of the positive momentum from the best game that Arch Manning's ever played. And 3, even if Arch Manning is cleared to play, the nature of the injury is almost concerning for the long-term viability of what Texas wants to become. It could create some hesitation. So that's another area that Steve Sarkisian's going to have to evaluate. Now, should Arch Manning not be able to play, the offense will be handed to graduate transfer Matthew Caldwell. He's not inexperienced. He's well-traveled. He's been around for quite a while. He's played at Jack State, Gardner-Webb, and Troy. When he was at Troy, he was 3-2. He had 13 touchdown passes last season as a starter. He has also shown that off the bench, he goes in the Mississippi State game in overtime, and on just one pass attempt, he did throw the game-winning touchdown to secure the victory. So it sounds like the staff has a lot of confidence in him if, in fact, he's thrust into the starting lineup and Arch Manning can't go. On the other side is Diego Pavia, supremely confident. Steve Sarkisian even went as far as to say he's one of the more competitive players that he's ever competed against. We saw what he did a couple weeks ago against LSU. We've seen what he's done all throughout his career as the Vanderbilt starting quarterback. He is 14-7 win-loss record in his 2 years as the starter. Just to put that into perspective, you think 14-7, well, that's good, but is it great? Well, Vanderbilt, prior to his arrival, just 12-45 in the 5 years before he got to Nashville. So think about what he's meant to this program. Tremendous, tremendous stuff. Question number 1, will Diego Pavia try to play hero ball? Now, he is a true dual threat. He leads Vandy, obviously, in passing with nearly 1,700 yards, but he also leads the team in rushing. He's got over 450 and 5 touchdowns. And his production is kind of what fuels this offense that is across the board excellent. Number 12 in points per game, number 7 in points per drive, number 7 in yards per play. Here's why we start here, okay? We've already seen a quarterback this year try to play hero ball against Texas, and it did not go very well. It actually went very poorly, and that was John Mateer. Now, if you look at how Diego Pavia has played against some of the best competition he's played this year, against Alabama, against Missouri, They didn't do quite as much on the offensive side. They averaged just 15 plus points per game. Now, you look at the pattern. When you have better competition, Diego Pavia has a tendency to try to do too much, which can lead to the occasional sloppiness or a big mistake. He has just 5 interceptions on the season, so it's not a ridiculous number, but if he tries to do too much against this defense in Texas, that could be a huge problem because Texas, they have 9 picks this year. So their whole goal, I would imagine defensively, is not necessarily stopping Diego Pavia, but baiting him, corralling him, not allowing him to make the miraculous play. So if Diego Pavia, for whatever reason, gets impatient, then that could be real problematic like it was for Oklahoma and John Mateer. Pavia might get some gains between the 20-yard lines, but when the red zone gets tight, maybe they can use his aggression against him. So keep an eye on Anthony Hill Jr., outstanding linebacker. He's going to have to keep an eye on Pavia's scrambling ability, and it will be very important for them to apply pressure because Pavia will, at times, try to do maybe a little too much and try to improvise a little too much, and that could be a huge problem against a very, very well-coached defense. Question number 2, Texas's offensive line. Can they come together against a disruptive defensive front? Now, if you look at Vanderbilt's overall defensive numbers, they're middling. They're not outrageous. They're about 31st in yards given up per game. But their strength is really along the defensive front. They are really good at getting into the backfield and playing in the opponent's backyard. Now, their defense, if you look at it, top 25 in sacks, top 20 in rush defense, top 25 in negative rush plays created. This is a veteran group, this is a disruptive group. They got 21 sacks as a team. You have a few guys up front that are really good, and they're actually quite deep relative to some of the teams that you see throughout the SEC. And they're going against Texas's most significant vulnerability. So you look at the 5-star players and the preseason hype, the Texas offensive line, that's been a big issue for them at times. They allow pressure on nearly 40% of their dropbacks. That is 114th in college football. They have 76 rushes for 0 or negative yards. That is 121st. Even Coach Sarkisian has publicly admitted that the offensive line is not playing, quote, in unison. So this group is going to have to play at a high level because this is a very good and aggressive Vanderbilt defensive front 7. Question number 3. Will Vanderbilt be able to run the football on early downs? This is a strength versus strength matchup. If you look at Vanderbilt, they average over 6 yards a carry. That's top 3 in the entire sport. Texas, on the other hand, they allow less than 2.5 per carry. That's second on the defensive side. So Vanderbilt's rushing attack, we've already talked about Diego Pavia, but their running back Cedric Alexander, those guys all do a really good job on first downs, and that allows Vanderbilt to stay ahead of the chains. And if Vanderbilt can stay ahead of the chains, they can win the time of possession battle, and in all likelihood, they can control the flow of the game. It's especially important on early downs because it leads us to our next question. Question number 4, who will win on third down in this game? Look, Vanderbilt's entire offensive identity is designed to limit possessions, control the clock, and not allow the talent gap that they have between them and some of the teams they face to come to the forefront. You play 80 plus snaps, the team that has more talent is probably going to win the game. But if the teams are only playing 50 or so odd snaps, that gives Vanderbilt a much better chance. Now, Texas, they are elite in some areas, right? They are really good at getting off the field, forcing punts. That gives their offense extra opportunities. So the money down battle will be very, very important. Like I said a moment ago, it might really come down to how these teams play on first down. Because if Vanderbilt is sitting there and they do a good job on third down, but if they're constantly living in 3rd and 3 or less, then Diego Pavia's dual threat ability is really difficult to defend. But if Vanderbilt struggles on 1st and 2nd down and they're sitting there in 3rd and 8, well, guess what? That plays into the strength of what Texas does because their third down stop rate is really good because of the pass rushers that they have coming off the edge. Vanderbilt right now is a top 10 unit offensively when it comes to converting third downs. Texas is a top 20 unit when it comes to defending third down. So very, very important key in this game is third down. And then question number 5, will Michael Taft's likely absence play a role in this game? Now, Michael Taft is a safety. He's the quarterback of the defense. He's sitting back there. He's one of the top tacklers. He had thumb surgery after an injury against Kentucky. Now, his role in this defense is very, very critical. He makes checks. He makes alignment changes. He patrols the middle, and he's been great so far this year. Now, his absence is maybe not as big as Arch Manning's, but it's pretty significant. And that vulnerability there in the back end plays perfectly into what Vanderbilt's strengths are offensively. Their top two receivers are not guys that live on the outside. They can live on the inside. Tight end Eli Stowers, he has nearly 400 yards. And their slot receiver, Junior Sherrill. Those guys are really, really good. And you know what slot receivers do? They attack liabilities in the secondary. So knowing that an All-American is no longer there patrolling the middle, how much does that impact the structure that Texas's defense wants to play with? I will not pick this game, but look forward to being on the call alongside Sean McDonough and Molly McGrath from Austin, Texas.